Ironheart is out in full on Disney+. This is the new show in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 6 episodes, around 50 minutes each, released over 2 weeks in 2 3-episode batches. The show stars Dominic Thorne, Anthony Ramos, Lyric Ross, Alden Ehrenreich, and Eric Andre. It follows the character of Riri Williams, who was kind of clumsily introduced in Black Panther Wakanda Forever as yet another young genius black woman. This one is an engineer following in the footsteps of Tony Stark and building Iron Man inspired suits of armor. After the events of Wakanda Forever, we catch up with Riri, who initially goes back to MIT, quickly gets expelled, goes back to Chicago, and because she's still obsessed with finishing and then improving her suit of armor, she needs resources that she doesn't have. So she ends up being recruited by a criminal gang led by the mysterious Hood, doing heists with them and trying to figure out if they're really friendly or if they're a potential threat to her, particularly Hood himself, who seems to be getting his powers from a weird magical red cape of potentially demonic origin. Things get even more complicated though, because Riri creates an AI which accidentally ends up taking the shape and personality of her dead friend Natalie. So the show was completed about 2 years back and was sitting in Disney's backlog essentially. Then they finally started the promotional campaign consisting of incredibly underwhelming and generic trailers. Then the show was brigaded on IMDb, the effects of which you can still see right now. Numerous people gave the show 1 or 2 star reviews before it actually released, which, by the way, if you're the kind of person that does that goes on a show's page without watching it and just gives it bad scores, you're a sad, pathetic loser who needs to get a life. But anyway, the show is out now, so the question is how good is it? Well, Marvel has been struggling lately, it's no big secret, and I've expected absolutely nothing good from this show. The result is that it's not terrible, but it's not great either. And the really frustrating thing about it is that there are seeds of ideas in here that have a lot of potential, but end up being unrealized. So, you can't help that in the hands of stronger creators or with more runtime, letting the story breathe, or different writing, this could have been something really good. I like the idea, so starting with the specifics, I like the idea of following someone who is decidedly not a hero, someone selfish on a path of self-destruction, and I like that the show stays consistent about that all the way through the pretty surprising ending. But at the same time, if you want the audience to be engaged in a journey like this, I feel that you absolutely have to make the character somehow compelling. Think about Walter White in Breaking Bad or Jimmy in Better Call Saul. You want to, even though those are sort of their character journeys are sort of slow motion car crashes, you can't help but watch them. You're glued to these characters because you're fascinated by them. And Riri isn't that fascinating to me, sadly. There's just not enough compelling stuff in the writing for her character. And then you have the setting, the sort of black vibes of Chicago, with fitting music and sets, set dressing and decorations and clothes and so on. I like that, but again, it felt that by the end of the show, it was just light set dressing, and the show could really have been moved anywhere else, or the characters could have been of different race and so on, without much impact on the story. Then you have the exploration of dealing with traumatic events in unhealthy ways and falling into an obsession, and sort of connected to that and spawning from that, the idea of having an AI assistant based on a real person who is dead. I felt that's a fantastically interesting and timely theme in the world of today, but the show fumbles it completely because, first of all, there really is no resolution to the grief and trauma angle by the end. It just sort of kind of is there, and then in the final montage of the family helping to create the new armor, it just seems like everyone is magically fine now. And secondly, there really only is one character in the show who says about the dead friend AI, wow, this is totally fucked. This is unhealthy, creepy, disturbing, please delete it. And even that character comes back 5 minutes later and is seemingly fine with it now. which to me, a person who in general is not a big fan of anything related to AI, was an absolutely wild take. And also, I think it's a dangerous take because it normalizes dead people AIs, which I think is 100% wrong, you know? Then you have the theme of sins of your fathers and defining you and making you try not to repeat them, but falling into the same patterns anyway, which is a parallel between Zeke and Parker. Both of these characters have the same thing going on if you think about it. But in this case, also it seems that the theme is explored almost accidentally, as the show doesn't really attempt to draw attention to it or to highlight its implications or even the similarity between these two characters in any way. The character arcs in general feel too rushed, particularly Zeke. It feels like he sort of does a 180 very quickly, and they are awkwardly resolved. I also think that the show does not have a lot of attention to detail, which can be even minor things like, you know, Riri lying on her bed in a full suit of armor and that bed somehow not breaking. Or a giant fight in the street not attracting any passerby attention, or have the police show up. It's or how quickly she was able to remake the car into the suit of armor in a garage. Like, they're not big things individually, but when you sort of put them together, it's things that when you pay attention to them, they make you realize that, oh, this isn't a real story taking place in a world that exists and is alive. It's a show that is shot inside a studio, which obviously takes you out of it. I also think the writing is often contrived and some of the editing looks absolutely amateur. Now, there are also things that I enjoyed. I think that it has a nice, grainy, atmospheric look. I liked the music. I liked some of the performances. I think Dominic Thorne does a good job with the material she is given. Lyric Ross, Alden Ehrenreich, and Regan Akia, all three are very entertaining in the supporting roles. And this is a minor spoiler because, you know, this has already been all over social media, but Sacha Baron Cohen shows up in the last episode and he is delightful. He steals the show instantly and makes you glued to the screen with his brief 3 scenes. Definitely the highlight of the entire show. I think the special effects in general look fine, and obviously I like the new suits of armor. They're more physical, clunky, heavy than the stupid sort of CG Power Ranger stuff in Wakanda Forever, which, you know, is always a good choice. It definitely reminded me of the old first versions of the Iron Man suits, which had that sort of clunky metal physical feel to them. But yeah, it's just too little of the good stuff, and as I said, so much of the thematic things that the show touches on feels excellent in principle, but just badly executed. So I can't in good conscience say it's a good show, as it ends up being disappointing, even though I actually expected nothing from it.